It's my favourite time of the day. Yes, it's Talking Pints with Major General Chip Chapman. Chip, welcome.
Thank you, Nigel.
To Talking Pints. You've been on my show before, of course, and people will know you as a regular talking head and voice across all news channels and radio channels and TV channels and terrorism, counter-terrorism, defence, Ukraine. These are your areas of great expertise. But I've got to go back to the very beginning of all of this. You know, what makes a young teenage lad decide, right, it's the army for me?
Well, you have to go back to motivation, really. So the thing which really motivated me throughout my life was the fact that I took my maths O-level a year early and failed it. And I decided from there on in that I would always seek to achieve and be the best that I could be at anything I did. And when I was about 17, I did get my maths O-level.
So failure helped you in a way?
Failure helped me. And when I was 17, I saw a panorama programme on BBC, and it was about Sandhurst, and I thought, that looks interesting. And I had an uncle who was in the SAS, and thought, you know, if you want to go in the SAS, which at that time I did,
yep.
How do I best get into the SAS? I will join the parachute regiment, because they're the elite in the infantry, and that's what I aspired to do.
So you go to university, you get a first.
I did, yeah.
You go to Sandhurst, and you do well, and you come out of Sandhurst. But suddenly then you're put with a group of paras. I mean, what equips somebody aged 19 with a commission to deal with a group of guys in the parachute regiment?
Well, the first thing is the selection process to get in as an officer in the parachute regiment must be pretty good. And it is the greatest meritocracy in the world. No one asks you what school you went to. No one asks you what university you went to. You just need the qualities to pass P Company, pre-parachute selection, and to lead this group of highly motivated men. And actually, in many ways, it is easy to lead highly motivated men. If you have the best officers with the most highly motivated men, you've obviously got a winning combination. It's probably the best thing to have your highly motivated officers with the least motivated men, so maybe we slightly get that wrong. So it's pretty easy to lead these guys.
It wasn't daunting then for you?
It wasn't daunting. These are the kind of guys you actually need to drag back. You never need to push them forward due to the level of their motivation.
Well, it didn't take very long, did it, before you were actually involved in a very real war? And we're going to see a picture on your screens of Chip as he was getting ready to go off to the Falkland Islands, and there you were, a real war, and you're there, and then you go back in years to come and look at the Falklands. But was that a shock to you? I mean, when you join the army, you know you could see active service, but it happened pretty quickly, didn't it?
It did, but it comes back to this motivation thing again. Everyone who went to the Falklands, certainly with the parachute battalion, was pretty keen to be there. You know, this is the sort of stuff that they joined up for. And if you'd have told them that, you know, the odds against them as they were at Goose Green were 3-1 against, and that you shouldn't really fight this battle, they'd have said, so what? You know, they were so motivated to go and, do what they had to do and achieve the mission. And they were a joy to command. I mean, they really were first class, and it was everything I believed. It was very early in my career about cohesion in the future, and how if you get the man management and leadership right, the cohering between leader and led, and horizontally between the blokes, then you've got a war-winning combination, as we did.
You told me earlier that you waded ashore.
We did.
So you were soaking blooming wet before the whole thing even started. When you get to Goose Green, and you knew, as an officer, exactly what you had to do, you to lead these guys in, and they weren't necessarily all going to be coming out at the end of it. Going into battle, what was your mindset as an officer going into battle?
It absolutely was about achieving the mission. You know, we knew that we would take casualties, and we kind of disregarded that a bit because the mission was everything. And really, we were standing on the sort of shoulders of giants from the Second World War. Yeah. And it was really making sure that we didn't let them down and let ourselves down. We didn't need any motivation.
That sense of regiment then, very, very strong.
Absolutely. It was this intrinsic motivation that, you know, we wanted to do well for each other and for ourselves. Without a history, there is no legacy, and without a legacy, there is no history. We knew that we were going to do what the guys 40 years ago had done at Arnhem and Normandy and the Rhine crossing, and we were keen to emulate them and be part of history itself.
When you get back together now, you know, we've just had the 40th anniversary this year of the Falklands War, and you get back together with those guys that you were with at Goose Green and serving in Northern Ireland and all the other things that you did. I imagine that sense of camaraderie has got to be extraordinary.
Oh, it is, and you can't bottle that really. It's you don't see people for years, and then you come together on the anniversary dates, and of course it's easier to swarm together with social media these days if you want to, and you just pick up from where you were 5 or 10 years ago when the last anniversary was. A lot of them have got slightly stouter than they were at that time, but they're the same characters as they always were.
So proud to be a parachute regiment man.
Absolutely. Once a parrot, always a parrot.
Like I said, well, you've got the tie on, so yeah. No, but after that, I mean, and you serve a long time with the Parrots. After that, you start rising through the ranks, and of course finish up as a very modern Major General. But you finished up in a very specialist area, didn't you? You finished up, with this whole question of global terrorism.
Yeah, I did a lot of years in Northern Ireland and then was sort of parachuted into more global terrorism after 9/11, and that's really where my career took most of its sort of path after that. And of course things went really badly wrong in terms of when IS came into fruition. They've now gone downhill, and so the sort of zenith of terrorism is past us. That doesn't mean that we should be complacent, but 2015 was the sort of high point of modern terrorism. There will be still attacks in the UK and worldwide, but it's not of the scale that it was in 2015.
Is that because our intel picks this up and stops it?
Mostly. You'll still have what is now called self-initiated terrorism, terrorists rather than lone actors. That's the new nomenclature that they use. They're the difficult ones to pick up.
Yeah, no, I mean, it must be very, very hard indeed. And life now is it pretty relaxed, or is it still pretty busy?
Well, I can do what I want to do. I can choose to do what I want to do, and that's a luxury that not many people have, so I'm in a joyous position in lots of ways.
This time of the year, November the 11th, of course, the big day, the ending of the Great War, the poppy, the fallen soldier in Westminster Abbey, the cenotaph, the events that will take place tomorrow. Interesting, isn't it? The 11th itself now gets commemorated in a way that it perhaps didn't a few years ago. And obviously Remembrance Sunday, events taking place right across the United Kingdom and all around the Commonwealth as well. And I just thought, I wondered, as somebody that's been in active service and seen battlefield casualties, what does Remembrance Day mean to you?
Well, the first thing is obviously to remember those who didn't come back that I served with, and my family relations. My grandmother was actually killed in a Luftwaffe bombing raid in 1941 in Plymouth, killed 75 in a communal air raid shelter, and my father was an orphan at age 7. The second thing is that I always like to remind myself and politicians, because I was a fairly senior officer, that you should never undertake war lightly. You should do it for either good vital interests or major interests, because there are consequences to going to war. The third one is I respect all the families because they suffer on a daily basis, those who lost their wives or sons and all those sorts of things. And the last one is that I always like to refresh myself that I am one of the lucky ones, that I lived to see the dawn of a new day when many did not.
Do you think we do it properly as a country?
I do think we do. I would hate to see it pass into history. I'd like to see more of an understanding of the physical manifestation of it, because there are only 14 hamlets or villages in the country which had no one killed in either the First or Second World War. 14. So every village, town, city, anywhere in the whole of England, Wales, Scotland and Ireland, all of Ireland, of course, prior to 1918, has some sort of physical manifestation of war in the 20th century.
Yeah, and of course, in fact, even in the Second World War, there were plenty of Irish people that did serve despite their different status. No, it is a very important time of the year. Somehow, I guess, the Queen not being there, but she's not kind of been at the cenotaph for the last couple of years. But Charles, of course, will be there. King Charles, of course, will be there. And what do you say to those who say, wearing the poppy is a glorification of war? Because there are critics of all of this. What would your retort to them be? Well,
I don't think it is a glorification of war. But again, I like the fact that, we fought for freedom and people have the freedom to choose if they want to commemorate it or not, but they should do it in a dispassionate way, which isn't ideological, and I dislike the ideology behind things like the white poppy.
Yeah. I want to say, Chip Chapman, not only thank you for coming on Talking Pints, being a great guest, and coming on the programme at other times as well, but thank you for the service you've given our great country. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel.